I'm Nick Westergaard, and this is On Brand, helping you tell your story. My guest this week is Robert Felder.
As a team, we wear all of our product every day. That's really driven a lot of our product creation and development because it's really catered to us. So I think that's why if you look at our reviews and our customer feedback, it is really positive overwhelmingly, but it also makes sense because we're developing product for ourselves as a customer. So I think that is part of what resonates so much.
Robert Felder founded Bearbottom Clothing in 2012, launching it in 2014 after visiting Bangladesh as a high school student. Felder saw firsthand the need for quality jobs and basic necessities like clothing within the community. Felder returned home with the mission to make positive impact on the people of Bangladesh, and Bearbottom Clothing was born. As one of the largest apparel manufacturers in the world, Felder could provide jobs while donating back to the community through the one-for-one business model. Since then, Bearbottom has expanded not only its clothing line, but also its impact on the people and communities they work with. Bearbottom has been featured in Forbes, Business Insider, and Reader's Digest. My interview with Robert Felder is coming right up. But first,
as a person with a very deep voice, I'm hired all the time for advertising campaigns. But a deep voice doesn't sell B2B, and advertising on the wrong platform doesn't sell B2B either. That's why if you're a B2B marketer, you should use LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn has the targeting capabilities to help you reach the world's largest professional audience. That's right, over 70 million decision makers all in one place. All the big wigs, then medium wigs, also small wigs who are on the path to becoming big wigs. Okay, that's enough about wigs. LinkedIn ads allows you to focus on getting your B2B message to the right people. So, does that mean you should use ads on LinkedIn instead of hiring me, the man with the deepest voice in the world? Yes. Yes, it does. Get started today and see why LinkedIn is the place to be to be. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Dan Farkas hosts a great podcast called The Strategic Communicator. Dan, tell us what these fine folks will hear when they listen.
Jason, it's pretty simple. The Strategic Communicator podcast talks with industry leaders about emerging trends and how we can use various forms of communication to make the world a better place. Anyone listening will leave with tangible ideas you can use to help with your PR and marketing efforts.
Amazing. Where can people subscribe?
Easy. You can go to passpr.com. You can find the show at marketingpodcast.net or just search The Strategic Communicator with Dan Farkas wherever you get your podcast.
You heard him, folks. Go get it.
Robert Felder, welcome to On Brand.
Hey, Nick, I appreciate the intro and I'm happy to be here.
I am excited to chat. You told a bit about the founder's story in your bio, but talk about how you connected the dots between what you were seeing around you and a clothing company.
Yeah, so I always grew up around the apparel space. My father was in the industry my whole life, so I was always exposed to it. And you kind of touched on it, but I had the opportunity to visit Bangladesh, one of the world's largest apparel manufacturing companies, as a high schooler. And it was just an eye-opening experience for me. And I got to see a little peek into what that world of apparel production and sourcing looks like. And then not long after, when I came home, I'm from Florida. I grew up in this area and it was the middle of winter, but to us, that doesn't really mean much. It was still hot out. And I actually needed some new shorts, went to the mall, just couldn't really find anything that suited what I was looking for. Then this was 2011, 2012 at the time. So e-commerce wasn't huge, but I did find a couple places selling them online, but I just felt the price point was pretty high and not that strong of a value. Spoke to my dad about it a little bit, got a little bit better understanding of how the pricing works. And, I was still in high school at the time, so I didn't know much. And I said to him, how hard could it be to sell shorts online? And that was a naive question, but I'm glad I didn't know better because it kind of kicked off the idea of, Bearbottom Clothing and everything we've done until now.
And as we're kind of filling in some of the gaps in the founder's story and connecting some of those dots with your father's experience, I also have to ask, this being the On Brand podcast and you having a decidedly distinct brand name, how did you arrive at Bare Bottom?
Yeah, definitely. So when we started the company, I was in high school. I was trying to find a name that was catchy and stood out. And our first product, still one of our best selling products, is a 5.5 inch inseam short. So it's just a shorter pair of shorts. And at the time, it wasn't super popular, but there was definitely a niche market for it. And we were just going through names and things that kind of were catchy and people would remember. And we kind of just stuck with this one. I just spent time with my family. We just workshop names for a week. I have two younger brothers and my mom and my dad, and we were just throwing names around. And this is the one that kind of just stuck for us.
We will, of course, as always, close the show with the question of a brand that makes you smile. But I feel like that name really makes me smile, and I think that's no small thing, making someone smile at, even just hearing your brand name.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It definitely gets a reaction out of people. And I remember actually in college speaking to one of like the on-campus advertisers just to explore opportunities, and they were like, "I have to check if we can actually put that name on the side of a bus." So that was pretty funny.
That's great. So, talk to us about growth, about going from the 5.5 inch inseam shorts to a large scale clothing manufacturer.
Definitely. So it's the brand was started out of necessity. Like I was looking for the product and I just didn't find something that suited me, so we went out and made it. And that's kind of been how we've grown the brand since then. As a team, we wear all of our product every day. And if we're ever at an event or going somewhere and we feel like we don't make the product for that event, or maybe there's another brand or product that we'd prefer to wear over something we currently have, that's really driven a lot of our product creation and development because we have the opportunity, we have the ability to develop product that suits our brand and our needs. So it's really catered to us. So I think that's why if you look at our reviews and our customer feedback, it is really positive overwhelmingly, which we would definitely appreciate and put a lot of hard work into. But it also makes sense because we're developing product for ourselves as a customer. So I think that is part of what resonates so much.
I think it's great as you talk about like everyone really being a part of the brand, wearing the brand, and that idea of not just that is sort of a virtuous cycle, that it's not just we're wearing the brand, but if there's windows, if there's gaps of, oh, hey, why don't we have XYZ? So how do you is there a process in place for suggestions from people internally as they're wearing the brand, part of the brand, and they notice gaps like this?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have like a formalized process, I would say. We definitely get a lot of feedback from customers, so I'll start with that. Our customer service team is awesome, so whenever they get suggestions, those are shared with our team to look into developing. We also read all the reviews and, we get a lot of feedback there, which is awesome. We have a post-purchase survey where we get awesome feedback from really good customers about what they want us to develop, what they like, what they don't like. So we do get a lot of feedback from just customers and friends and things like that. So that's super helpful. But in terms of like in the office, we are inundated with ads because you have everyone in our office always on our website. So all the social media ads we get are just nonstop clothing. So whenever we see another brand doing something, or, again, like I said, when you're trying to go somewhere and maybe you have a product that you'd rather buy from someone else, it's just, we have a channel on our Slack just for product suggestions and ideas. So it's super open process. Our director of sourcing, Emmanuel, has a ton of network connections. And, if there's something that we think might fit, we can very quickly either get a sample or at least work with one of our partners to workshop what that process would look like and if it would fit into our sourcing process.
That's great. And again, I think keeping that open, and it's like a good example of the importance of feedback loops. So when you talk about being a one for one business, that is one of those things that many are drawn to. That sounds good, but I would imagine is a lot harder than folks might initially think. So, how did you one come to the one-to-one aspect of the business model for Bare Bottom, and how does that come to life in what you're doing?
Yeah, so like I said, the part of the inspiration for the brand was after I visited Bangladesh. And when I was there, I was just learning, taking everything in, and I asked people, how does a country like Bangladesh or a lot of developing countries, what do they need to get to that next step? How does the process work? And they said the first thing is people need jobs, because without jobs, their kids won't go to school. There's the jobs is the essential part. So that was what really stuck with me. And then I remembered right across the street, on the road into one of these large factories that was producing millions of garments a year, there were three kids like playing right outside, and they didn't have clothing on. And I was just thinking, what a crazy, crazy concept that right a couple feet away from where these kids are, there's just millions of garments being made. So that really stuck in my head. And when I was coming up with the idea for the company, obviously the product was essential, and that was the main focus. And I said, what else? I don't have a marketing background per se. Obviously, I was in high school, so most people don't, but it wasn't a passion of mine, I would say. Um, and Tom's shoes at the time was a huge inspiration. They were doing amazing work and really setting the way. So that kind of gave me the idea of, all right, this is something we could do that differentiates us. Not a ton of brands were doing it. And then I thought back to those kids outside of that factory. And I said, if for every item we sell, we can follow that same Tom's model and donate a pair of shorts. At the time was the only thing we sold. So that was really the idea behind it. It was a ton of inspiration from Tom's, and then that visual of seeing the kids outside the factory, as there is a need for it. So from there, we've grown as a brand. We started selling more products, and it really scaled a lot. So we started donating out actually at the factory daycare facility. So the factories we were working with had on-site daycares for the workers' children. So when we first started out, that was good. But as we grew, we expanded to the factory workers, extended families, local schools, orphanages, like train stations. The program really erupted. And luckily, we had some great partners who worked with a lot of great charity organizations and NGOs who could get us in touch with the right people. But the program started to grow exponentially. And, we are not in the business of donating shorts, right? That's not what we originally are founded for, and that's not our strength. But I think I was really happy with how efficient we were and effective we were with that program. And we did that until COVID hit. And then, there was shortages of tons of different supplies, and we had sources and production partners who could get those. So we made a transition during that period to helping get medical supplies and masks and different things to healthcare professionals and into schools. So just tried to do that our part there where we could. And then that kind of gave us the opportunity to reevaluate, reevaluate our program for the first time in about 7 years from founding. And we kind of landed on the decision of what can we do that's more scalable and has a larger impact. So we still do donate some clothing here and there, but our primary mission now is donating midday meals, is essentially school lunches. And we do that in areas around the factories we primarily work with. And we work with an organization that's donating over 2 million meals every single day right now. And their goal by 2025 is to donate 3 million meals a day. So they're an awesome partner. We visited, multiple of their production kitchens. I actually just returned from a trip to one of the schools in Bangalore, India. Our CMO Josh was able to join me. So they're an awesome partner, and they've helped us really scale and make a bigger impact with our buy one, give one model. So it's been a really great change.
On Brand will be right back after this.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Sean Swaim hosts a great podcast called SEO Last Week. Sean, tell us what these fine folks will get when they listen.
Anybody who listens to SEO Last Week will get all the updates of what's going on in the world of SEO in about 15-20 minutes or so. So that way you can stay up to date with what's going on Google without having to dig through 60 different blogs to do so.
That is super useful. Where can people subscribe?
Hey, we try to keep things simple. You can subscribe at Marketing Podcasts with that second S.net, or you could just search for SEO Last Week wherever you get your podcasts from.
You heard him, folks. Go subscribe. You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Kevin Hunt is one half of a great podcast called Hansen and Hunt on MPN. Kevin, tell us what these fine folks will get out of listening.
Hansen and Hunt is a place for marketers and communicators for brands, companies, and organizations of all kinds to stay on top of industry news and trends. Eric Hansen and I discuss things that make them think, things that help them do their jobs better, things that help them hopefully show up smarter with the boss. We are a monthly show, and we've been at it since 2014.
Awesome. Where can people subscribe?
Their preferred podcast app, of course, or head to hansenandhunt.com or follow our show at marketingpodcast.net.
You heard him, folks. Go subscribe.
Now, back to the show. So, a random sentence that I never thought I'd find myself saying is, I'm glad you mentioned the pandemic,
Yes.
because as you talk about, really, starting a business, social entrepreneurship, bootstrapped growth, boy, supply chain, with all of that, there was, a huge potential disruption there. You mentioned navigating that a bit, but how did that create gaps in delivering your brand experience?
Yeah, so I mean, the key word you said is brand experience. For us, that's huge. We only sell through our website, and a core reason we do that is because we love being able to provide the customers with an awesome experience. We ship out orders super quickly. Our customer service team responds nearly immediately when you reach out, and we take a lot of pride in that. During all those supply chain problems that everyone was reading about, we were living it. We luckily had some great insights from veterans in shipping industry, and they were warning us very early on, saying store shelves would be empty. And I just thought, there's no way. They said Walmart shelves will be empty. I said, there is no way something like that will ever happen. But we heeded their advice. We just, front loaded our orders, and we said, if it's here 3 months early, 6 months early, it's not a big deal as long as we had the cash flow and ability to get the inventory. So we made the decision to just go forward with that. And we did pretty well during, those times. We had inventory on hand. We had to do a lot of crazy things like on-site storage containers and all types of stuff just so we had the space. But our whole team here was super dedicated, our warehouse team, to making it work. And they were flexible with us, doing whatever we had to get it done. And it was good we did that because, everybody just started buying things online, and we saw explosive growth, and we were lucky to have the inventory. And our partners in India in particular, they did an amazing job to ramp up production while everybody was canceling orders and closing orders, closing factories because they had no orders. We were just growing like crazy.
With that growth, you kind of hinted at this as well, but with brand experience being so important, as you scaled for that growth, are there any aspects of the brand experience that had to change, that had to be modified?
I wouldn't say necessarily. I think we got lucky in the sense we had added enough members to our team recently that we were able to scale and grow, and handle that extra capacity. Of course, we were all working like crazy and running around like crazy, but it was fun. It was exciting, to be able to just accelerate our growth. Basically like 5 years it was fun, and I think everybody enjoyed the opportunity to do that.
So, when you consider the brand touch points that a D2C brand has, what are some of the most unique aspects of doing business with Bearbottom?
I would think probably just how we treat our customers. Every customer to us is important. There's a lot of disconnect sometimes when people shop online, and I think we stand out in that space where that disconnect can be broken down. A lot of customers know our customer service reps. They email back and forth, they chat back and forth, they build those relationships. So that's something we really care about. And any review that's not a 5-star review, I read it and get a direct email. Our COO gets an email, and we read all of the reviews. So we do, we are online and we're not having that face to face interaction with our customers, but we do honestly, we treat every single customer as if, you are in our store, in our home, you're our neighbor. And I think, people really appreciate that, because unfortunately it's becoming less and less common that companies and brands provide that type of service.
So, as we talk about growing the brand too, starting with shorts, as you grow, how do you know when a new product line extension, addition is a bare bottom idea?
Yeah, that's something we definitely struggle with, and I think most brands face that problem. Where do you grow, and what direction do you go with the product development? Like I said before, because we're designing for ourselves and we are customers of our brand, I think that helps a lot. We get customer feedback. We have some long-term customers who are super loyal, who are amazing and love to share feedback. So we'll give them some things we're working on. We have like a private Facebook group where we'll post new product ideas or developments and get feedback before we actually do it. So that's helpful. But a lot of it is just trying to understand our customer and our market and testing things. And honestly, if you don't test it, there's no way to know for sure.
So, as the founder, I would imagine in the early days of the brand, you were the brand, and you were the biggest brand storyteller out there. You embodied the brand. As the business has grown, how has your role as founder changed in communicating the brand?
Recently, I've taken more of a front-facing role, I would say. Excuse me. In the past, I know you said I probably was the face. I was honestly more behind the scenes, and we didn't have a huge team. I started it in college, so I was just doing most customer service, shipping a lot of things myself, and got friends to help along the way. Now we have a full team of people here who can do a ton of awesome work. So I've had less of a burden on that, and just support where I can and help guide and give direction. And now I'm taking a little bit more of a front facing role and sharing the brand, sharing our story, because I'm not someone who's huge personally on social media or in that space, but I really love connecting with people one to one and talking about our brand and our story. And I love sharing advice. A lot of people reach out to me who are trying to start a brand, and I love talking to them. To me, it's super fun. So I just have been learning, how can I take those similar one-on-one experiences and convert that to a more mass market way of doing it. So social media, podcasts like this. And because at the end, it really is like that one-to-one interaction still, but it's just sharing with more people. So we've been doing that a lot more, and it's been really fun. Having conversations like this are also super cool. So I think that's the biggest change. And when we started out, our customers were the brand, which was really cool. We were just getting tagged in amazing photos, people doing really cool things. And that's really shaped the brand a lot. And still now, like if you go on our social media, so much of our content is from customers and partners we work with who are just doing really cool, really fun things with our product. And it's really cool to showcase that aspect of the business.
Awesome. Well, that story makes me smile. And now, Robert, it is my turn to get to ask you for a brand that has made you smile recently?
Yeah, that is a good question. And I was trying to think about that. So, one thing right now we're really working on a lot is we're going to have a ton of graphic tees coming out in early 2024. So, I've just been looking at tons and tons of graphic tees, and there's a lot of super cool brands that are making either like really creative ads or products. And like, there's one or two that come to my name. There's one called Takeout Order, and they make t-shirts, graphic tees primarily, that are just like out there. And one of the ads that like made me smile recently was, it was said, "Your shirts are weird," and it was their mom talking to the person. So I thought that was just clever and funny, and it's true, like their designs are out there and weird, but they're cool. So I think that's a good brand as something that make you smile.
I love it. That sounds like a great shirt and can't wait to see the ideas coming ahead here in 2024. To that end, Robert, where can folks go to learn more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so bearbottomclothing.com, that's our website. We have tons of info. All our products, of course, are featured. We have About Us pages. Our Giving Back program is featured there. On all social, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, pretty much all those channels. If you want to reach out to us, those are great avenues. And then, like I said before, our customer support team through our website, you can find their contact info or chat with us. And, we're super open to any sort of questions or feedback all the time. So we love getting to talk to people.
Awesome. Well, we will link up to that in our show notes, which folks can always find at onbrandpodcast.com. Robert Felder, thanks for being on brand with us.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
On Brand is part of the Marketing Podcast Network. If you like what you're hearing, if we've made you smile, you can always listen free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever your favorite platform may be. And please take a moment and rate and review the podcast to help others find the show. Until next week, I'm Nick Westergaard, and I'll see you on the internet.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.